episode 16 of Season 3 of Relics of War, the show about Guild Wars, Guild Wars 2, and the Guild Wars community. We actually do have some Guild Wars 1 news this week, but first, I am joined by the ever-awesome duo of Evie and Kate. How are you guys doing today?
I'm having a really busy week.
Why's that?
I'm moving in 2 days, and I've been maybe working on a little bit of a secret project for Relics.
Indeed. It has taken many hours, but it will be awesome. So you'll have to tell everyone about it. It may have been spoiled by various websites who have already mentioned it, but I'm not gonna spoil that. Boom, boom, boom. Evie, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Just okay.
I hear you've taken up drinking.
No. Not at all.
Alright, so we'll start out actually with some Guild Wars 1 news. There's something going on in Guild Wars Classic, Kate. What is it?
It's the Wayfarer's Reverie, which, admittedly, I don't know much about. I only know the rewards, because I asked about it, and no one I know has gone back to play it.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't play it when it came out, the first time?
The first time it came out, I was going, oh my god, Guild Wars 2 launches in 2 days. I was also preparing to go back to school at the time, and about halfway through the Wayfarer's Reverie, the servers went up, and I haven't looked back since.
Nice. Evie, did you do the Wayfarer's Reverie?
Is that the one where you go to different places and it ends up rewarding you with a tormented weapon?
Yes.
Yes, I did do it. And just an FYI for everyone, if you've done it before and gotten a tormented weapon, you can't get another one.
I was gonna use it to finally start finishing my. That's sad.
But there are other cool rewards this year.
Oh, what?
Which I did see on Tumblr. You have a choice of one of 4 things: a Legionnaire tonic, which turns you into Ritlock Brimstone in Guild Wars.
Wait, what?
Legionnaire Summoning Stone, which summons Ritlock Brimstone in Guild Wars. A Legionnaire Loot Bag, which I have no idea what it is.
Is that like a permanent summoning stone?
Yes. And there was there was a Ritlock Mini that you could get in Guild Wars as well.
Alright guys, I'll see you in a bit.
And you have
I'm
a choice of one of the
Guild
4.
Wars right now.
Oh no, I have to beat him. He's gonna be the guild leader. No!
Am I even in Relics of War in Guild Wars?
I don't know.
I don't think I am. I think I'm still part of the Elite Empire. Which is a fantastic guild. If you guys are out there, you guys rock. Come on, come on. Full screen, full screen. You got this. There we go.
But yeah, Wayfarer's Reverie is going on.
Guild leader! Ha!
Alright, actually, I'm gonna exit, and I'll take us back to the actual show. Anyways, I'll get around to doing that. Maybe I'll live stream Wayfarer's Reverie at some point and talk about it. But, okay, so cool. And it'll be fun to find out what's in the boxes. I do still have to run a Guild Wars 1 and actually finish all of the Elite dungeons at some point.
From my understanding about the rewards, you get a choice of one of the 4, so if you pick the boxes, you can't get any of the other 3.
Is that account bound, or is it...
I believe it's account bound.
Actually, that doesn't matter. I have access to 4 accounts. I can get one of each.
There you go.
And an extra.
Oh, there's 3 options?
Just 4.
There's 4. There's the box, there's the...
Loot Bag, Mini, Tonic, Summoning Stone.
Oh, okay. I thought there was 3. I forgot about the box.
Oh, I'd have to get the Summoning Stone, because if it's permanent, Shongoku then would have another person to bring along with him, and then I could run my Ultra Mini build, my Ultra Summon build, which is fantastic.
It occurs to me, I guess... Why... ArenaNet really loves Ritlock. I think he's a cool character and all, and I like the Char, but, why don't we see any of the other...
He's iconic.
Iconics.
He's really iconic.
Where's
Logan...
my Zoja tonic?
That's true. Zoja would be...
Here's the thing. Steve Bloom made a really good impression.
It's true.
It's okay. I really like him, so he can stay around as long as he wants.
I'm not going to complain about more Ritlock, to be honest. I think that he is an intriguing character. Speaking of intriguing things, they had a live stream this week on Guild Wars 2's twitch.tv/Guild Wars 2. And they had a little bit of a sneak peek at something at the end. Apparently, they're doing a little bit of work on the Borderlands maps. Evie, did you see this? Do you know what's going on?
It's the replacement for orbs. Oh my god.
So what is the goal of this? What are they... Well, first of all, what are they doing? I mean, do we have a definitive answer to what they're doing?
Okay, so like the old orb buffs, they like took them out because people were glitching their way to get tons of buffs and blah blah blah.
Apparently they could fly up in the air and just put it
that was
somewhere.
such a problem
and no
on
one
our
could get
server.
it.
Because I used to do a lot more World versus World towards the beginning because it was required for your monthly. And people, especially, well, this one server we're up against, it might have something to do with Yaks. I would always see people wall hacking and flying over. They would just pick up an orb, fly it to the keep, and put it down, and that was it.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are they doing it now?
Now it's like a point that you have to capture and hold in an
Is
area.
How many points? Just one?
I believe so.
Okay. Is that what we know so
It's,
far?
it's a generally like large area, and there's one in each borderland. And as you hold this area, you get the buff.
Oh,
So-
the Hunter says that it's 3 of 5. There's 5 areas you have to hold. Or 3 areas out of 5. Interesting. So, please continue. Ethan.
So, I mean, this could go many ways. I mean, it could split Zergs and be like, okay, we need to hold these areas, blah, blah, blah. It could make having more people even more important because you have to have enough people to hold these areas as well as be able to Zerg around and take keeps and whatnot. I mean, it's very gray as far as how it will actually affect the system.
So they kind of did a reveal, but they were light on specifics.
Oh, yeah.
What was my train of thought? Oh, okay. So one of the devs was talking about if you want to get in the crate killing, you better do it now. So I was under the impression that the entire middle of section of the map is being changed. Is that where the Coliseum was?
It
might
looked
be.
like. When
Cool.
you're looking at the map, because you could see the mini-map and you could see where it was, and it looked like it was like it was like central-ish.
Yeah, that's where the crate are now. And then North Central is a keep.
Huh, interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I think that hopefully, and obviously as more details come out, we'll be able to give you guys, we'll actually be able to be like, we know what's going on! Because we have no clue right now. But hopefully it will serve to split the Zerg up as much as possible. Cross fingers. But moving on from World vs. World, which hopefully that will have some changes. Actually, back on World vs. World, I saw a tweet from Neo Nugget earlier this week where he was actually told to get off of a catapult because he did not have the catapult mastery tree. How do you feel about that?
It was inevitable. And I mean, it's going to be a thing now.
Yeah, it is, especially as people... The way they've implemented progression for World vs. World is one of the major things that's keeping me out of it right now. Like, I enjoy going into World vs. World, but I only dabble because I'm doing other stuff in PvE, and I don't have enough time to invest myself fully in both of them. So when I go into World vs. World now, I don't want to touch anything because I'm not specialized. Only one of my characters is level 6. If I build into the wrong tree and a month from now they add a new thing, I'm completely invested in whatever trait line I went into. There's no resetting it. So it's so punishing to take an alt into World versus World, and it's not, how to phrase that, it's not you don't start on even footing like you do in PvP in this game, where, you know, the experienced PvPers obviously have their experience and skill and their whatever, they have better skins, but a newbie is going to be on the same tier of gear as an experienced player, where you're not going to be that in World versus World. And I know it's supposed to be unbalanced, like they touted it as an unbalanced kind of game of numbers, but it's still not appealing to me, where I come in and there's just everybody is so far ahead of me.
Which, yeah, that is a problem. And there are some things when we get to our actually, we'll move straight into in Dub Dubstep with Devin Carter. No, this actually relates to what you were talking about, Evie. Because Devin Carter, as far as catching up, that is an issue. And I know that Indo, when he was on the show, back on what Kate was talking about, when Indo was on the show, he mentioned the fact that they like to take newbies and stick them on siege equipment because it's basically what hooks people. I mean, that's what gets you into Dub v Dub. Like, stick a newbie on a catapult, just watch, and they just get to tear stuff apart, and they will be hooked. Or stick someone on a trebuchet. And now, you don't want to stick newbies on a trebuchet or give them access to any siege equipment because they don't have the trait line, and so they're not going to be as efficient. Mm-hmm. And I think that is unfortunate. I think that they have to move away from siege equipment as far as trait lines go. I think that having defense against guards is fine, having supply bonuses is fine, having maybe the ability to cap a point quicker, because,
I honestly think that all the trait lines should focus on being defensive. Just as a rule.
I think
defensive or just utility.
Essentially, yeah. So, what Devin Carter has talked about actually two different things this past week, serious topics in Dub v Dub. The first being that there is an issue that people are worried that changing the maps is going to affect guild versus guild. Specifically, he said he wanted to chime in here a bit, and they appreciate that many people really enjoy organizing their own combat in Dub v Dub, and we are very aware of it. We've been discussing what can be done about that. However, Dub v Dub is its own game type, and it requires attention specific to it. We are focused on making World vs. World as fun as it can possibly be, and we will continue to make changes to World vs. World with that in mind. Our decisions regarding World vs. World will always have the needs of World vs. World paramount. So, have either of you taken part in the Guild vs. Guild matches that have occurred?
All I heard from that was that GVG needs to be its own game type. It needs to come.
It really does.
To be honest, I want guild halls. Okay, have you guys seen anything of the guild? I mentioned this, I think, last episode, but the Guild versus Guild in WildStar. Have you guys heard about that?
I
haven't really been following WildStar.
That might have a subscription.
Oh my goodness. So oh, well, I didn't know.
I'm a hipster when it comes to that, and I'm not going to lie about it. If it has a subscription, I'm not even going to get it.
To be fair, the subscription model is pretty much dead.
The subscription model is actually the hipsters right now of MMOs. To be honest, Evie, because most people will play that. I think they have some pretty good reasons for the sub, but that's neither here nor there for this point. Their Guild versus Guild is essentially you get a giant floating island in space, or actually around this planet. And I'm getting a little bit of feedback, Evie. You should turn down your mic a little bit. You have basically this planet, and you have these floating plots of land. And you build on the land. You put down, like, turrets and towers, and you have basically a tower defense that you build with your plot of land. And you can do things like and you have a certain number of points, and each defense is worth X points. You can even get things like raid bosses that you've captured and stick it on the land. And so what happens then is another guild can come up with that has an equivalent number of points built into their base and fight you. And you basically have to assault through these defenses that they've built on this island, which are like pretty much freeform. They're not locked in places. You can figure out optimal stuff. Fight up to it, get into the guild and kill the guild lord, which is essentially like Guild Wars 1 GVG. And so that is WildStar, Guild versus Guild. What do you guys think of something like that?
It's too open world.
You and your anti-sandbox
GVG it's a competition between two guilds. It's structured. It has a ladder. It's very, 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 very specific in the goal that needs to be accomplished.
Why can't that be?
And when you add this huge open world and there's a lot of factors coming in and out, you lose that structure. And when you lose that structure, that sense of competition becomes sort of muddled,
Okay.
and it loses the essence of what GVG was, at least from Guild Wars 1. It can be a new form of GVG, but
Yes.
people will still want what was in Guild Wars 1, which is that structure.
But we have structured PvP, which is almost
It's
the
not.
same.
That is not
It's
GVG.
not the same.
Okay, so how is the form of like the WildStar GVG worse though? I mean, it gives you the ability
It's not worse. It's just different.
different. Does it
It's not what people are asking for is the thing.
Are
It
they
is a
asking
guild versus guild, but it's not the structured guild versus guild that
the guild
is what
versus?
players want right now.
It is structured though. It's two islands. They smash up against each other, and they have the same basic layout, but you've built custom defenses. And so your guild has to think about this beforehand. They have to invest time before they go in, figure out the defensive. There's balanced for points. And so imagine like guild versus guild if you could actually place your archers from Guild Wars 1.
It emphasizes like tower
Strategy,
defense play
cunning.
over. Hush, I'm talking. It emphasizes tower defense play over team play
How so?
because going into a fight, your biggest concern is going to be how you set up your island, not what your team composition is or how your players play with each other. Bec- Ultimately, most fights in those situations are probably going to be won by well, not structures, but the buildings that are on those islands and how they were set up.
So you don't think that will be an accent to your team play?
No.
You don't
Well,
think
it
that
will accent it, but it'll de-emphasize it too much.
do you think so? I mean, why do you, I think that you would see comps that tie into like structures, wouldn't you? Kate, what do you think?
I think I would enjoy that style of PvP, but I also don't think it's like I said, I don't think it's what people want. I don't think they want the map to be
And that's
as much
ultimately
a player in the game as any of your teammates.
what the big problem is. People want GVG from Guild Wars 1 just in Guild Wars 2. And going in, the devs were like, "Oh, we'll rewards for that." It's not.
No, it's not for guild versus guild.
There's not a
And
lot like
that little quote basically just proved it.
That's true. Yes. What's up, Spirit? Kate?
there's also not a lot of guild focus in a sense. Like guilds are an accessory to what goes on in Guild Wars 2 right now, but they're not the focus, and that's what
And it kind of has its guild wars
Yeah.
in the name. And as much as people like to say, "Oh, that's an obscure lore point," the name Guild Wars came long with the actual mechanic of Guild Wars in Guild Wars 1 came long before they created an obscure lore point.
They created the obscure lore point to justify the mechanic.
Yes. So I completely am behind people who say, "Hey, no guild wars in my Guild Wars 2. Why not?" Do you think that it needs to be identical to the Guild Wars 1 system?
Not identical,
No.
but at least systematically or even thematically very, 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 very similar, if not the same.
Interesting.
I mean, it's obviously not going to be the same as in Guild Wars 1 because the combat's completely different.
Yes.
Can you remind me what was the objective in GVG was to kill the guild lord. There were no
Yes.
wasn't there secondary objectives with the flag?
The secondary objectives was mainly the flag,
And they gave you a
And-
boost.
and depending on which map you were using, like which guild hall you were fighting on, there was the like environmental effects. So if you can control people within these effects, make the fight a lot better on your part. But ultimately, it all boiled down to who can kill the guild lord the fastest.
So what you're saying is that they had hardwired tower defense items. No, okay, I'm trolling at this point. And I'm going to be trolling a lot this episode, so I'm going to move on from that to what Evie wants to talk about. You've got the show notes up in front of you, right, Evie?
Well, just one more thing
Okay.
with Wolfie World. Someone mentioned boosters.
This is yeah,
chat.
right here. It's on the show
Oh.
notes. You need to scroll down, down, and then it says in Dubv Dubstep with Devin Carter. I came up with that name, Dubv Dubstep. I think
He's really proud of it.
I'm
in case you
really
didn't know.
proud of it. It's terrible. Evie, so tell us about boosters and read what Devin Carter said.
Okay, I'll just read this real quick. They currently do affect them, and the intent is for that not to be the case. And wait, what?
You should probably
reading
read
wrong.
the heading. You should read the heading
Okay.
first, and then read the next one.
Wolfie World XP boosters affecting the liquid Wolfie World XP, like the progression system. They currently do affect them, and the intent is for that to not be the case in the future. I believe we are aiming to address that in one of the next 2 builds. I would suggest consuming your liquid Wolfie World XP in the meantime. I'll do my best to provide advanced warning so you can take full advantage of it beforehand. So my advice is drink up now with a booster active, but don't hoard them because that is only a temporary advantage. Basically, it's the same thing with Karma that just happened, except they want to give people warning
Yeah.
because they learned.
Yes, which we'll get back to with Colin Johansson when we get to Colin's corner. So, that's how do you feel about the fact that they are changing that? Do you think that they should keep it with the booster, or do you think that they should just unify their liquid XP?
That really doesn't touch on my problem with boosters in general.
Okay.
But I mean, I personally don't want to see boosters affect that liquid karma, just because it's a sort of little contrived thing that just
Yeah.
why does it exist? As far as boosters in general, to me, the boosters and even the liquid XP feels like a band-aid for a problem that needs surgery, which is the progression system and how it's linked to a particular character.
Yeah. So, do you think it should be like in PvP where is PvP? Do you have a glory character locked or account bound?
Glory
Where's
is
the compound?
So they clearly have a system where they can fill up an XP bar with an account bound system.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Is that like an option in the game where you just like you go into the engine and you're like account bound, character bound, and like you uncheck one and check the, or do you just like
seriously
drag
doubt
it?
it's that simple,
I,
but it can be done.
it seems like it would be very straightforward. I mean, they already have a account bound progression system. It seems like you
There's
just
tons of account bound
instead of taking
systems.
well, no, I'm
There's
specifically
achievements,
saying
there's
it.
glory, there's
Yeah.
now magic find. I mean, there's tons
Well,
of
I'm
stuff.
saying that they already have an XP style achievement system in Guild Wars. So unless I guess what they did is they took the bare bones of the XP system with the skill points each level, copied it over, and then converted that. And so when you get a skill point, you get your you get all these things that happen when you. I don't see why they didn't just copy the glory system.
Because I guess it would have been a copy. They wanted something unique to World versus World, and they wanted
Because
they wanted
wanted
to
characters in World v World to matter.
yeah.
your specific character. But it already matters because how you like the character that you go in with matters. Like if you go in with an Ellie, you're going to be doing X, and that's going to be important. If you go in with a thief and you're in tier 1, they're going to tell you to leave.
Or an engineer,
Or an engineer, or anyone who's not a necro, Ellie, or warrior with a hammer.
Guardians are useful.
Oh, and guardians for their condition removal screams. And other things.
And so are mesmers, for that matter.
Oh, that's right, portals. Okay, so the 5 professions. If you're one of the 3, ranger...
Basically, if you're in a trench coat, you're not welcome.
Oh, that's right. It's no medium classes, which is another reason why they need to get rid of trench coats, so that you can sneak in and be like, "I'm not in a trench coat. I think I'm a," and then give everyone all the same weapons. So then you'll get a bunny thumper ranger, and you'll be like, "I'm totally a warrior." Cough, cough.
You want to know something? You joke, but if they actually made Bunny Thumper a thing, in Guild Wars 2, it would give Rangers a spot in World v World.
Oh yeah, because it would be basically the same
Yeah.
thing as the Hammer Warrior.
It would be stronger than a Hammer Warrior.
Really?
Hmm.
That's true. I mean, would you... Oh, and they do the little animal animation over you when you do your melee when you do your awesome melee
Well,
attack. So like
it's
all of the
just
hammer abilities could be like rabbits attacking people.
they'd have the added utility that the Ranger just naturally brings.
That's true. Rangers are pretty dope. I'm actually almost borderline going main ranger right now in Guild Wars, which is weird because I really like Necro, but Rangers have such much utility. Anyways,
And you're wrong.
yeah, which I'm gonna agree with chat that Liquid Karma and Liquid XP are definitely not great at this point. Liquid Karma back in the day worked before Currency Wallet, but it's kind of pointless now.
Liquid Karma, I mean, there's no point of it existing right now. I think they're slowly figuring it out.
Yeah, so getting rid of the boosts. What else did they do, Evie?
Hmm?
Is that primarily it? They got rid of the boosts on it, so yeah, there's no point
It's
to...
the biggest thing now. But, like, it just shows that they know
Well, it would be hard to
need it anymore.
keep karma, and I think it's kind of like we've been saying, it's a band-aid, but they want to boost the amount of they're boosting the amount of karma we get when they take away the booster effects by about 45 or 50%. I can't remember which number it was.
45.
And they would have to go in and tweak all the numbers, I think. Otherwise, oh no, I suppose they could just add to our account-bound karma gain too now, because we get that as well.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to Magic Find and XP and... What is it? Gold Find, Magic Find, XP, and Karma are all... We have account-bound increases that don't have to go on our armor, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Magic Find being removed from the game, I'm ready to move on. I'm done talking about World vs. World because it just makes me angry.
Speaking of Magic Find being removed from the game, talk about the living world. So, why did my... Oh. So, Spirit, while I fix my computer screen that just turned off, go ahead and tell us about what you have been doing with the current world events and what exactly is going on.
I have been doing all sorts of invasions because they are super profitable if you can do it right. And by do it right, I mean go to as many events as possible, tag as many mobs as possible, preferably as many champs as possible, and kill them and take all their loot. And then, depending on how far you progress the event, you'll get, what is it, like 10 champion bags just from completing it if you finish it. And then if you don't finish it, you get 6, I think. Something like that. You're going to get loot whether you finish it or not.
Yes. I'm back, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back.
Yeah, you will get loot. Also, I learned something interesting about the champion farms, which we will definitely have to talk about in a little bit. How do you guys feel about how the story is advancing? Evie, do you think it's too slow? What do you think about the gating that they've got in here?
Gating.
The time gating.
Well, the time gating for the story is completely fine because it gives people time to actually experience the story, and I think it's ample time.
I just got to the fun house.
And there's still a week left.
Yeah, I had to purposefully hunt it down.
I mean...
Yeah, that's true.
It makes people put some effort into it, but it gives them enough time, I feel,
Yeah,
to actually get it done.
It's a step in the right direction, but there are some problems with it right now, especially the fact that you need to do 5 invasions, which is...
Technically 6, you can get it done in 6.
Okay, technically 6. For your... Just to get into the story instance, to get back into the content. So it's blocking... The story is pretty significantly blocking other content, which is a problem. And also, if you go ahead... Like, I know Christian went ahead and did invasions before he did 2 tiny story quests that you had to go out and interact with the gate and then talk to an NPC. And he didn't get credit for those. So he had to go back and do an additional 2. So I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. They're getting a progression down, but it's not. The system hasn't improved to the point where it's a logical and easy to follow progression. You still need handholding. You still need to consult outside sources. You still need to. The game isn't explaining it to you, but definitely we're moving towards. I want to say almost more of a quest system, but we're moving towards a logical story progression that plays out like it should be.
Almost a quest system, it actually is. It is.
Yeah,
It is just a straight up quest chain. It is not. I mean, there's dynamic events involved in it, which are nice and all, but at this point, I think we all can admit that dynamic events are just a very convenient way of delivering quest content. Unless if you guys have seen events, which is not a bad thing necessarily.
It's not a bad thing because, I mean, ultimately a quest system gives them a way to present a linear story.
Yes,
it's true.
Which is a problem. It was a problem when Guild Wars came out and we just had hearts, and there wasn't like a linear story out in the world, and we struggled with it because it's hard to form a coherent anything without kind of a linear narrative.
Or at least linear aspects.
Yeah.
You gotta point people in the right direction at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
You guys and your point them in the right direction. Okay, I'll agree with you on some level. There was some confusion there. Okay, but speaking of the story and these new things, we have now seen that, as we all suspected, the Watchwork guys went Terminator on us.
Did they really? I mean, they're being controlled. They're not self-aware.
Work with me, Evie. They're trying to kill us and they're robots.
Look. I'd say they're more like Matrix.
No, those are
Terminator.
clearly... Those are way more self-aware than Terminator.
Shh. It's a better reference.
Boy, because they glow green?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So, about them, though, they have introduced some interesting elements to PvE. Specifically, they have added defeating your enemies. You actually have to use finishing moves, and if you're doing small group content, finishing moves.
Can I just say one thing on finishing moves? Why am I not seeing my animations that I worked so hard to get in PvE? It's just some stupid little spike coming out of the... I want my stag.
I think, to be honest, Evie, oh look, it's your Twitter face. Follow him at Evenus, folks, and you will see the most amazing just Twitter expression ever. It's amazing. It's just like... He looks like an angry bear.
I'm a very expressive person with my face.
So anyways... So, they've added finishing moves. Sadly, you're right. And I think that since this has turned out to be a pretty good hit, because I've been playing it with mass groups, and then one day I decided we're failing because everyone's just sitting there farming champs off of the Aetherblade Captain, and this is dumb. And so what I did is I grabbed Cole, and then said, we're going over here, and he's like, there's no champions to kill. Which is true, because you won't kill any champions doing this, but to actually complete the event in the zone, I went to all of the places that the commanders were not, and we were like two-manning these events. The cooperative functionality of the Watchwork guys is fantastic. Like the balance, they have healers, they have rezzers that will go around rezzing them if you don't kill them, so you have to prioritize targets. They have the big heavy hitters that are going to deal a lot of damage if you don't keep away from them. And if you can also finish guys off so that the rezzers can't res them. It is when you're playing like two people versus all of them, it is fantastic. Just because of all of the things you have to keep track of. Obviously, because of the mass event, you're going to spend 90% of your time in a Zerg. Have you guys been able to interact with these at all?
I noticed they were really strong in Scarlet's Playhouse, the instance, because you have a group of 1 to 5 people. And again, like you were saying, the small group, it really shows. I think it's really cool that they have... not necessarily a kill order, but you might want to take priority, rather, based on each individual's mob, because they each have their own mechanic. If a steam creature goes down, they can res it into different things. One reses them into mines, one reses them into a thing that makes bigger ones, and if there's like 4 or 5 down, they res into a giant lieutenant mob, which is a silver. I've been told it's lieutenant. I'm not clear
It's a
on the.
silver.
It's a veteran.
It's a silver.
Like
Yeah, it's in
like
between a champion and a veteran. It's huge and it will bash your face in. Also,
nice.
it still has a butt, which I just find the greatest mob design is just
Hey, that's
the
actually
robots.
really useful because I know where to backstab.
Oh yes, I'm not complaining about it at all. It's just really funny because you like see these like giant, twisted, angry mobs with
And then just
they're
female
trying to
butt.
kill you, and then there's a butt like floating around in the air.
It makes
Butt,
it made
and it has boobs. Can't
Isra-
forget boobs.
Israfel was talking about that, and he's like, I'm not sure how I feel about this. For me, it makes me a little bit conflicted because I'm like, I'm gonna kill that. Am I supposed to be attracted or terrified at this point? I don't.
No, it is really good for telling which is the back end because a lot of profession mechanics revolve around it, and I do really like the finishing mechanic. I didn't think it had a place in PvE, but it really does. I'm glad to see it, and
I
I
think
hope to see it more in the future.
Yes, and and this may have been a test run to see if people will actually use it in PvE, but if they do, and if people like it, which it seems like people do, we might see them adding finishers in.
I have
To
more things to
PvE.
talk about.
Go ahead.
Finishers.
That would be amazing.
Speaking of test runs, we are now starting to see bosses without defiance, which
Wait,
I think is a
what?
fantastic step in the
Yes.
right direction. Scarlet, in the instance, whether you bring 5 people or 1 person, has no defiance. She has unshakable, but not defiance.
Well, that
and-
means I can't fear her.
No, you can fear her. Defiance is the one that stops it. Or no, she doesn't even have unshakable. That's right, because Israfel could. Yeah, we were using blinds on her to constantly do that. So,
How does she
to my mind,
counter?
that's showing that. What?
How does she counter this?
She
I
just
don't know.
has her own mechanics.
She doesn't really. Yeah,
the
which
thing
is.
with it is the other mechanics are just so ridiculously bossy in nature that being able to CC the boss doesn't make it makes a difference, but it doesn't trivialize it.
Oh,
I think if you had gone in there with a coordinated group that wanted to trivialize the content to farm it, you could have done it. Because
worth
it was so
farming?
easy to.
No.
No, it's not worth farming, which is why I think we didn't see that right now. But I think we will see more of that in the future, which is absolutely a good sign because I've been saying forever that to uphold the trinity that Guild Wars 2 wanted to introduce, we need to see crowd control come back into play.
I'm
It's
still
not damage support control until crowd control has a role in group play.
I'm still thinking they should just rip the system straight out of SWOTOR. Star Wars: The
How
Old
does
Republic.
that give me like a Cliff Notes version on how that works? Because I
It's
don't know.
actually really easy. CC has a certain value assigned to it. You apply a CC to a player in PvP, and this bar stacks up. Once you've applied a certain value of CC to a player, they go on cooldown where they cannot be CC'd for X amount of time. You know what that time is. You can see it when you're targeting them. And so once that goes off, then you have that same amount of CC that you can apply again. And so maybe a hard stun's going to be worth 75% of the bar, whereas a blind's going to be worth maybe like 10% of the bar and that sort of thing. So depending on like where they're locked in place versus where they can still move, dodge, and still get some skills off like heals and that sort of thing is going to be worth less.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Then
that
you'll
system.
just see people spamming blinds on bosses and just face tanking them.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yes.
a little bit complicated in Guild Wars 2. Like there does need to be some sort of mechanic where we can't just constantly trivialize bosses by crowd controlling blinds or fears or whatever. There
With that
needs to be
system-
some reward though that when you do use your crowd control, it pays off.
With that system, I immediately think, oh, I'm going to sit there, I'm going to blind it with my blind field until that little cooldown comes up, then I'm going to run around, wait until it comes off, and then do it some more.
What if once you trigger the blind, once it's on its cooldown, the boss gets special mechanics that make it way worse?
Still
Or
run away. The
or
whole
what if-
point combat is mostly to avoid damage. So it's just
Yes.
like avoid, avoid, avoid.
Do you think that that would trivialize it though?
No,
Not
it wouldn't
necessarily, but
trivialize
it
it the
would make
same
it very,
way
very,
not
very
having mechanic would.
straightforward. And I mean, it's just almost the same as just DPSing it down. It's just its own straight. It's different, but it's still one track thing. It's
So,
just-
Kate, if you were in charge of replacing Defiance, what would you like to see?
Honestly, I don't think it's simple enough that I could come up with a good solution off the top of my head, but
I
the
just
end
pulled
result,
one out of my hat. Like my...
ideally, the end result would bring a damage, support, and control trio into existence where we can say, we do really want a player who is good at controlling in whatever way it is. It could be, Guardian Hammer. It could be Thief applying cripples and shooting around. That was what the game was supposed to be, is that any profession could fill any role. And
Did they
all
say that
the
any
roles were
profession
needed.
could fill any role?
Yes.
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 Really? Because I'm not...
They do it in different ways, but any profession could fill any role. And to some extent that was lost, I think, when just the way professions are now. And as we see more skills, I think we'll be able to see more professions filling more roles more consistently. But in a system where every profession can fill every role, there's going to be one that's best, which is why we see the Guardian, Warrior, Mesmer trio right now, because Guardian best support, Warrior best damage, Mesmer best utility, and GG go home.
Except in PvP, where we don't see warriors.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
But that's
Unless they have
neither
setup
here nor
teams, then they completely rock face. But setup teams usually suck anyway, so
There you go. Yeah,
there.
because...
Also, okay,
Yes.
well, I'm on a roll about things going on in the living world that I don't like, that are like close to being good, but have problems. The way the living story invasions are playing out right now pits two groups against each other in a way that is not okay in Guild Wars 2. So far, we have been so good, not we have been, but the developers have been so good at promoting an atmosphere where it's a cooperative environment. And for the first big time, like memorable time at least in Guild Wars 2, I'm seeing
people
players
fighting in map
really
chat.
so much infighting
So,
between people who want to complete and people who want to farm.
interesting thing that we learned about that, actually. So, essentially, go ahead and summarize the issue, specifically. What's going on? So, champion farming off of, what, Aetherblade Captains?
Yeah, Aetherblade Captains, the Captain events spawn several champions. The Moltons have champions, but obviously they do go down a lot faster than the Aetherblades. Basically, an invasion is a 45-minute window in which you need to complete 3 phases. The first phase is just a wave of minions. The second phase is a wave of minions and a wave of special minions, either Aetherblades or Moltons. It's random per event.
Or Steam?
There can be a Steam invasion?
Yes, she's using Steam, and she's using Steam mechs.
the
the
Steam
Steamverse.
though doesn't count as its own faction. She'll use it in place of Watchwork.
Okay.
Ah.
Yeah, and then there's a third phase, which is that's another thing, Esith. I'll talk about that in a minute. The final wave
That's where she
and
got her
whatever
portal
the
tech.
other one is.
Yeah.
That's not. Okay, so you have to beat that final wave, and then you have to kill Scarlet. I don't think you have to kill Scarlet to get the full reward. Is that correct?
No,
You
I
just
think
sort
you
of.
get the full reward after the final wave goes
The
down, and you don't actually get
daily
event credit for
reward.
killing. Okay, that is another problem. Is the event credit system is really confusing. It's so. It's not just like, oh, I participated, I got event completion. No, you have to do like there's hidden.
You have to
like,
do a
requirements.
Watchwork portal
Yeah.
event completion and the achievement.
So there you
But
go.
while all this is going on, and it's a really tight window, even though we're seeing entire servers like crammed into a zone. There's so many overflow servers. Even on Northern Shiver Peaks, we're not getting into the. Now we are kind of because it's a week old and it's kind of getting to be older content. There's not as many people cramming in.
Yeah.
But even on Northern Shiver Peaks, we're getting way into overflows, and there's so many people, and it's a tight time window with that alone. And then you're seeing people who just want to farm champions because recently they introduced a patch that gives champions
champion loot boxes.
Yeah, which is very lucrative. People have been farming it, which hasn't been really an issue, but now it's an issue of people wanting to make money versus people wanting to event complete.
So which, boiling down, what's essentially happened, because the Aether Blades are the best way to farm the champions, there are actually people that are yelling and arguing that they shouldn't finish a wave because it's the Aether Blade wave and they can keep farming champions.
There has been this is kind of an issue that's near and dear to my heart because I do have a commander tag in Guild Wars 2, and I primarily use it in PvE for guild missions just to have a tag to rally around, but I've also been trying to command these maps, and it's really frustrating between farmers trying to tell you not to complete and other people telling you what to do. I'm so glad that there is a place, or there could be a place for PvE commanders, but the way they're being treated by players and the way they're being treated by each other, I've had more problems with other commanders than players almost. I had this one guy, felt like we talked about earlier, you can't just zerg these events down. You want to be spread out across the map. And so ideally, the commanders will go to different events, but since the commander system really isn't robust at all you have to do is have 100 gold. And
which
a lot
is
of
not insanely difficult to get at some point if that's a goal.
But here's the thing, the people that are actually going to spend that money tend to be on the farming side of things.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's already in favor of that particular viewpoint when it comes to commanders in these events.
So I will say ArenaNet has done a few things, and they've talked about this on the forums. They've reduced the number of champions that spawn on the Aether Blades, and they have also come out and said that the minions of... that you do not have to complete events to kill to get the minion bar to decrease, or the watchwork minions. Those aren't actually event based. That bar that goes down for the watchwork, it's just kills.
Yeah.
And so what they came out and did is on the forums, and they started spreading this around the community, is that, okay, if you're going to farm champs, guys, go farm the watchwork champs. Just go sit in a spot and farm watchwork. And then they significantly reduced, I believe, the actual number of champions that spawn around the Aetherblade Captain. And so I noticed when I did Molten, just now I did one, and we beat it handily, even with the Aetherblades on the map and everything. So they they are taking they're trying to figure out ways to encourage people to succeed.
The thing is that this is a repeating problem every time they're introducing new content now with the champion loot. First it was the Ember Farm, now it's this one. There's probably going to be something that's heavy on champs and people are going to farm that. It's a repeating cycle, and I really, really hope that they figure out how to prevent counterplay to farm from happening.
They did just put this in, what, 2-3 weeks ago?
Well,
is when they put in the champion loot, so they can't, it's hard to...
Well, yeah, I understand that, but it was a problem before the invasions. Now it's a problem with the invasions.
Right, which
and
I mean...
I'm sitting here wondering how many times it's going to be a problem before something comes out and it doesn't create a problem that they have to fix.
It really needs to be that overall completion is more lucrative than failing the event. They've said in the past they want Guild Wars to be a game about success. Yeah. They don't want you to be purposefully failing events to farm. That's been said and done. So all that they really need to do is to buff. So like an example, to fix the events, the faster you finish the event, the more loot you get from it. Like the higher reward you get from the end reward or something.
So several people have suggested actually tying champion chests to the event itself, to the event success.
That would
They
be
already
great.
did that.
No, like actually, like if you succeed at X event, at when you do not get your champion loot boxes that spawn because of event until the event succeeds. Otherwise, you don't get your loot boxes, or maybe you get half of the loot boxes from the champions you killed.
Then a lot of people just aren't going to do the events.
Except, you can farm your champions, and then the event will finish, and then you get your boxes.
They should also make mobs run away at the end of events so people don't linger to farm them.
Yeah, it is an issue. I think they're working on it. Obviously, this issue has been in game for 3 weeks.
In different forms.
In different forms, and so I think what we're going to see is a progression to where they're beginning to figure it out. I know that one thing it has done is I've seen on Twitter, a lot of people are running dungeons that they haven't run before because of the champions. Like Ara Path 4, Ara Path 3 is super popular right now because of how many champions there are along the route. Because what you'll do is you'll just go and kill the champions, kill a champion, kill a champion, and if you're a competent group, you can burn those guys down quick.
I've been running it with Twit Guild, and it's been very good money.
And this is where I kind of play the oh no's card. People are starting to actually speed farm it, and that old COF speed farming people, whatnot group, are starting to go into a raw.
Well, you don't have to take them with you.
Which I'm not saying is a bad thing, because I'd rather them be in an instance than out in the world.
Yes, and that is actually a good point, is that people are finding that it's actually even more lucrative to farm instances right now than to farm champs in the open world and the events.
Maybe not more lucrative, but it's much more structured.
Yeah.
I just remembered something. I have a pro tip for you. If you're out in the open world and there's a lot of commanders, if there's a particular commander you want to follow, join their squad. It hides all the other commander tags, and you'll just be able to find that commander.
That's a good pro tip.
And so that way you can block out the idiots. You can find a good commander and follow them around. They know what they're doing.
Nice. All right, so let's go ahead and do patch note or upcoming patch stuff in 15 minutes with Shongaku, Eevee, and Kate. All right, first of all, Super Adventure Box is coming back. Hip hip hooray! With more skins and a new world, so all sorts of content. How far did you get last time in the Super Adventure Box, Eevee?
I did everything.
You did everything. Kate, how far did you get?
I did the same thing. The first day, Evie and I were in a group together, and we thoroughly explored the first world.
I was having lag issues, and so I rage quit at World 1-2, which is really sad, because I'm looking forward to getting through that again, or getting into that. Actually, it was bad. Then I took my 2-month hiatus from Guild Wars 2. That's why the show is in Season 3 and not continuing Season 2. Alright, so now, okay, I'm going to skip that one really quick, and we'll come back. That's going to be what we're going to end the show on. Legendaries. So, Legendaries are going to get some updated graphics. It looks like they're going to be making Meteorologicus, my
Alphabet Soup.
Awesomer.
And a night cycle. Did you see it? It has a moon, and then, when it's night,
goodness.
it's a moon.
I am
when
getting
it's
this.
a sun.
I'm going to get it for my Elementalist. Done.
If only there was a legendary I actually liked.
If only there was a legendary for an Necromancer.
I have a problem with legendaries right now, and that I'm so close to mine, and yet I'm so far away because I need a precursor, and it's driving me crazy. I'm almost done with my T6 mats, and I have 10 charged lodestones to go, and all I need is a precursor beyond that.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, too. Magic Find is going away, which we mentioned. How do you think the new account-bound Magic Find system will work? They've actually described it. Kate, tell us.
Okay, well, I can tell you what's going to happen to your old gear, and then I have a little bit of knowledge about what's going to happen. If you have Magic Find gear, it's going to become account bound, and then you'll be able to choose stats for it.
Any crafted stats, I do believe Martin Kirsten said.
Any crafted ones. I'm not 100% sure if that includes Celestial. Does it?
Yes, it's just the Magic Find on Celestials going away.
So essentially, what that means, guys, right now is go and buy Magic Find gear while it's cheap, and then convert
It's not cheap anymore.
It's not actually. It's been going up. I've been watching it. I got really giddy because I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna make some money off Magic Find gear because I have stuff sitting there that's not bound to any characters. So you can actually craft Magic Find gear for a profit right now, guys. Specific things. Check it out on like Spidey and GWTP and stuff.
Yeah.
So okay, there's also going to be they're going to add in the essences of luck. What are those exactly, and how do they work?
You salvage them from blues and greens. We don't know the rate of the salvage or like
0.0003%.
Yeah, we know very little. We just know that you get it from salvaging blues and greens,
And
which is a good thing because it gives value to them, and they just, I mean, they have no value as of right now. It's vendor trash.
Yeah.
So there's that. There could be some problems though because we don't know exactly how high account Magic Find is going to go. We don't know how rare these, I forgot, essences of luck, right?
Yes.
Item.
Yeah, essences of
We don't know
luck.
how rare they're going to be. We don't know the best way to salvage them. Like, do you use basic salvage kits? Do you use fine, masterwork? Do you use
We're gonna have to
master?
do
I mean, it's just there's tons
theory
going
crafting.
into this that we just don't know.
Yeah. Now, obviously we know that you are never gonna get any from salvaging.
Oh yeah,
Vrabin's gonna get 30,000, and so he's gonna have maxed account Magic Find. Now there is some good news for people who still want Magic Find in the game. Magic Find food is not going to change. Also, the Magic Find infusion, the 40% I believe, is not going away either. That's gonna stay, and so you can continue to reap those benefits. So there will still be some good things. Since we are going to be seeing as well with this patch the first 500 crafting disciplines, jumping puzzles are probably going to start rewarding the tier 7 mats, so keep an eye on that. And before we get into our bar brawl, which is what it's going to be, about sandbox and crafting, we are going to talk about Colin's Corner. He talked about karma changes and the rollback. Specifically, he said, as the game director, this is ultimately my fault first because he didn't tell anyone, and I'm sorry for those who potentially lost some karma as a result. It is our policy to message these kinds of changes ahead of time, like they did with the boosters in WVW. It is our policy to message ahead of time, and he'll do everything possible to make sure this doesn't happen in the future. Now, since then, they have done a account rollback, given a bunch of people karma back. Actually, apparently they gave people extra karma back, so cool. Thank you, ArenaNet, for those of you that accidentally burned stuff. Also, there is a path in Twilight Arbor called Forward Up that has been bugged.
Also known as the FU path.
Which is accurate because, oh my goodness,
yeah.
the spiders don't stop spawning ever.
It's so
horrifying.
broken right now.
And yes, it is the Forward
don't
Up.
run it. Just
Don't. Now,
it's not worth it.
Don't even try.
When asked about it, Colin Johansson's answer was, Twilight Arbor is high on the list of dungeon candidates as our permanent dungeon revamp updates begin to start back up again as themes for some of our Living World releases. So instead of patching this, they said it's high on our list of candidates?
That's not okay.
Is that...
It's not okay to leave a known progress blocking bug in there because you're going to update it in a couple months. That's not okay. It's not.
I mean, honestly, just take the spiders out of the fight.
I love
for
the
now.
spiders. They're so cute.
Just take them
Yeah,
out.
I don't know. Change it to other. If the boss is like irrevocably
love
broken,
SS.
change it to another boss temporarily or something. Just don't leave a blocking bug in there until you're ready to get around to it.
That said, there is always a silver lining, and Eseth has found it. Easy weapon achievements. If you
Except
need to
they're
get
not
kills,
easy.
you could tear through them so, like the
But
little guys.
you
you'd
personally
tear them
have to get the
apart.
last hit with that weapon.
Oh, that's dumb. Never mind. It doesn't work, Eseth. I'm sorry. Alright, moving on. Yes, it's horrible, but we'll survive.
Which is why the shield weapon achievement is absolutely horrible. Just saying.
Oh, no. You just run around Godlost Swamp with a shield and bash things into submission.
If you can bash
With
things.
what?
Um, the warrior shield can, and also the engineer shield can,
Sort of.
and I think you can trait guardian shields do
The
damage.
cooldown on the engineer shield is just like, why would I kill anything with this?
Oh yeah, we don't talk about that.
Yeah. All right. So, anyways, for the past year, he was talking. He also talked about expansions and says for the past year we have had some larger projects going on in the background we haven't discussed yet. For the projects cooking in the background, we'll go into more detail on those in the future. Now, these are projects, which means that they are something entirely separate from the living story. And dub changes, and PvE balance, and PvP balance, and PvP maps, because they've talked about all of those. These are things they haven't talked about. So the question remains, do you think that with the success of the Living World so far, they're going to just push those larger projects, cut them up, and throw them in as Living World content? Or do you think that they're going to release an actual expansion at this point?
Yes and
want
no.
I want an expansion so much that I hope they do.
At this point, as much as I want to say there's going to be an expansion, or as much as I want an expansion specifically for Cantha, I just don't see that happening at this point.
That's a good point.
I'd much personally, I think they'll go into the desert or even further north first, or even underground before we go into Cantha. And
The good news is
at least
there's-
I think that introducing that would be much more streamlined if they did so through Living Story rather than an expansion.
Yeah. I will say, though, that it is good to know that there is no social reason that they can't go to Cantha. The designers do have some issues with how juxtaposed everything was in Cantha, which is probably one reason why we saw the Empire take over and completely destroy everything that was different. So we will probably see a more consistent Cantha. Basically, naming and stuff was like weird mixtures of Japanese and Korean and stuff.
Well,
But I
just
don't.
because the Empire came in and was like,
Yeah, it
we're
doesn't mean
xenophobes doesn't
Luxon
mean.
and Kurzic cultures are wiped out.
Well,
And
but
it
no, I'm
also
saying
does-
from a designer standpoint, they did not and a writer standpoint, they didn't like the juxtaposition of the cultures.
Well, they're wrong.
I personally didn't
Can I
mind
tell
it.
them that?
I know a lot of people who are big into like that cultural area that like study the history and interact with it, hated it, like passionately. They were like,
Huh.
"This is the worst thing. Why would you would never see a Korean name mixed with a Japanese name. That's so dumb and unrealistic." And then I'm like,
Oh,
"But we
yeah,
can
It's
find
just
like
not Earth.
Fantasy games.
That
Yeah.
I don't know. I know people who ranted about it to me. It's why they
Look
wouldn't
at
watch
that.
Avatar.
something. This isn't a pair of sunglasses. It's a comb, but deal with it.
Personally, I'm with Esith, and I'm gonna continue with my theory. We're gonna swim to Cantha.
Nope, we're going to the
6
desert.
zones of water. No, well, no, I'm not saying that that's gonna happen next. But when we go to Cantha, we are actually going to swim there. Or they'll finally have figured out how to create zones that are actually reasonable sizes as opposed to these tiny little things that they have, and we'll be able to sail to Cantha because we'll basically be able to go right out of the Lion's Arch docks because they'll have a seamless world at this point as opposed to these silly portal things because they can. If Arcade can make the world the size that it is and have a seamless world, which it does, I'm pretty confident we have the hardware to actually make Guild Wars 2 seamless.
I'm glad you put on your tinfoil hat for that.
And I
We
also
are
want to
swimming
point
to
out that
Cantha.
Arcade has much higher system requirements than Guild Wars 2.
Yes, it does. But that doesn't matter because Seamless has nothing
it
to do
does.
with that. That's just how the servers load in the information. That's not going to affect your play.
Yes, it does.
Just because of how many people you'll have all in one server thing. That's why you have server blocks that deal with the specific... Like, look at how World of Warcraft did it. When you're in Stranglethorn, and when you're in that area north of Stranglethorn, I can't remember the name. Red Rock Cliffs or something.
Red Ridge.
You're on
It's
different...
Duskwood,
Duskwood.
and then Red Ridge and Elwood.
Okay, anyways, thank you. You're on a different server subsection between those two zones. That's why you get the little thing that pops up and it's like, John, you've moved from a different zone to a different zone. And sometimes you'll get lag when that happens, like way back in the day. Because they sectioned it off on servers, it still functioned. You still... can't they do that? This technology has been around forever.
I'm.
Because
They can do that when they get servers so that we can play with people from Europe.
We could do that. I did that, and there was no... They basically said we don't want latency on it. Okay, I'm taking off my tinfoil hat. And we're going to go into Bar Brawl. Because ranting about Seamless World is not going to help anyone. And actually, the world's beautiful, so I can't complain too much. Bar Brawl. Crafting. We learned that crafting is going to go to 500 this week. And
for weaponsmithing, artificing, and huntsman.
Okay, not
Just
for
to
everything.
clarify.
I was really hoping we'd get cooking first and get like legendary cooking recipes, because then I'd be like, it's legendary.
I was looking at cooking first because it would be useless, and I wouldn't have to worry about it.
And you can buy them for a reasonable price.
Yes. Okay. So, anyways, artificing, and so a lot of things are shifting. The markets are going to go insane now that we know that there's 500. Obviously. Basically, what's happening is we're getting 500 crafting. We're going to be able to craft our ascended weapons, and I'm gonna go for a little bit, and I'm gonna let Evie and Kate tear my philosophy apart. So what's going to happen is we're going to create ascended weapons. We're going to, as far as I can tell, they said that would also include precursor to creation. So now we can create precursor weapons. Maybe, maybe not. Apparently not. Evie will talk about that. Okay, go with that, Evie. We cannot create precursors yet?
There's no confirmation on precursors. People have asked, and they were just like, we're planning on it.
I'm assuming that they're going to put it in there, but they're not going to tell us so that people can tell. I think we're going to have to find some really random stuff around the world and mix it together in the actual Mystic Forge, or in our crafting thing, to craft the precursor. I think it's going to be like, go and find this thing over here, go and find this thing in a dungeon, go and find this thing from a turtle that you fish out of the sea with the new fishing discipline. That's actually not going to happen because there's no fishing discipline. I'm sorry to get your hopes up and then dash
Completely
into the ground.
side note, if no one has noticed, there is no seafood in cooking because they still plan on adding fishing.
Yes!
Table
Just
flip.
throwing that out there.
Wow, you really don't like fishing? Man, this is great.
I enjoy fishing. I'm
Oh.
done with crafting.
Oh, okay. So the big issue that people are having with it is that the only way to get ascended weapons at this point is crafting. I personally, from a crafter's perspective, think finally they're actually making crafting worthwhile, because up until this point there was no point to craft to make money. You couldn't make money. Pretty much everyone who's been crafting and sticking things on the marketplace has been doing it at a loss. You can't, like, if you make a profit,
Why does
it's like,
crafting have to make money? It should be a self-convenience.
that's the point of crafting. Why do we have crafting in the real world? Why do I go to a factory and have something built? They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it to make money. And in MMO, crafting is always supposed to have been part of the economy, not like
Can I
this.
counter that
We're
right
gonna
away?
do it for free, Kate.
Ascended gear from crafting is going to be account bound. You're not going to make any money off of it.
Have they said that specifically it cannot be sold? Have they? Because I know that they've said.
I have not. Okay, admittedly, I have not seen anything today, and the press release for next patch was today. I have not seen anything today that said that. However, when they announced crafted ascending gear, they said it would be account bound.
That's stupid. That removes all. So that basically forces. Okay, and now I understand where Greebok's coming from.
Now you understand where me and Kate are coming from.
That's stupid. You should be able to sell it on the trading post.
I'm
that's
still not entirely in your boat, Evie. I have my own thing, but I'm waiting for Shangaku to finish.
Well,
So-
we're essentially we're on different ends of the same boat.
I think that's dumb.
Kind of,
I think
yeah.
that it should be able to be sold, because the point is to take the people who like crafting and give them something that they can give to people and actually, make money off of.
They're not going to make crafting something that is profitable. In Guild Wars 2, it is a self-convenience, and I'm pretty sure it's going to stay that way because of the way the economy is.
That's because there's.
If you
people
could
are-
buy ascended items from crafters, it would completely what would be the point of crafting at that point?
Because if. Okay.
As a progression system, which is what ascended items are supposed to be.
So the system.
Tier between exotic and legendary for people to work for while still working
Yeah.
toward a legendary.
Okay, so the point would be if you can make a ascended, let's say you can make an ascended rifle for 20 gold. Costs 20 gold. It's 25 gold to purchase that. That takes a significant amount of time for someone to actually, get that much gold.
Time gating.
But that isn't that the point of ascended gear? Is it was supposed to be time gating?
No,
Because they said it was supposed to
time
be.
gated, but buying it is not. You can make 25 gold in one day. You can't make an ascended item multiple times in one day.
Right.
You have to be you have to have an 80 that knows the world and various other things. I mean, you have to be very competent at the game to make 25 gold a day.
Is
Not
that a
necessarily. I
Okay.
mean, you have to know how to farm, yes, but not.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it a like, to my mind, I would rather have less contrived time gating. So like say they're like okay, so like fractal relics are a more like pristine fractal relics are a better example of this. You have to achieve a certain level in fractals, and you have to do it consistently to get an ascended ring. But it's not. It doesn't. It's a time gate because you have to be able to do a certain amount of things. But the game does not set the pace at which I play. There's not. If I wanted to run all 20 fractals from 1 to 20 and get my ring in one day, I can. And if I need to spread that out, I can. It's a time-gated thing, but it doesn't dictate how I play. I don't want the game to dictate how I play. The Celestial Gear is really getting to me because I have to go once per day to a skill point, charge a thing, and then I put it in the bank, and I can't do anything with it for another 4 days. I would like to be actively participating in my creation of my gear.
That said, you could just park an alt at the crystal and then stack up.
It's still it's a passive reward rather than
Yeah.
actively working towards something.
Yeah. To me, okay. Actually, grab back before I do this. Can I read all your tweets on the show? Is that okay?
Yes, read
Word
Greebox
for word.
Streets. We were going to
Okay.
do that anyway. It's in the show notes. It says read them because they were awesome, even though I completely... Actually, I kind of agree, but... No, I don't agree. They're terrible. Rah.
Okay,
Sandbox.
Evie, why don't you give yours before I do mine? Because I need to look this up
What?
anyway.
All right, Evie. So, actually,
Tell us about where you stand on crafted gear, because I know you hate crafting. So
I
where
think
do you
it's
stand on
very
this?
similar. Actually, I can find Greebox because it's going to summarize.
Honestly, this has nothing to do with my personal opinion of crafting. I might not like crafting. It's more of a general, just thematic thing with just the game in general. Currently, there are basically 5 ways to get weapons at the highest tier possible. There's dungeon runs, money, crafting, guild commendations, which of course takes a little bit of money, and they're unique skins, but they're still there, and World of the World. When this system comes out, the best weapons will be coming from one system. Anyone that wants these best weapons will have to use that one system, whether they like it or not. I have a big problem with people being forced to do something that they might not enjoy in a game.
Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
read these tweets real quick.
Read Greebox.
So we asked on Twitter earlier what you guys thought about the way they're doing it, and Gribak replied to us, and he said, Guild Wars 2 started as a game where you could get your gear by doing any aspect, and now it is becoming one where you have to do everyone. Before, if you wanted max gear, you could do World vs. World, Random Drop, Trading Post, Crafter, and Karma, whereas Ascended requires Fractals of the Mist and missions and crafting. Laurels are a terrible implementation to solve this. They take time gating, around 5 months of every daily plus a monthly per character. So to sum it up, while I am happy that we get new abilities for crafting, I do not like how they are doing content funneling. Yeah, that's all of them. Go ahead.
Words out of my mouth.
Yeah,
Literally.
I can't argue with you now that I know that it's a stupid account-bound ArenaNet. If you're watching this, at least let the crafters sell it so that people don't have to craft, because Eevee hates crafting.
I have one person with any sort of weaponsmithing. It's not even like, I think it's an artificer that is level 20 in crafting.
Thank you for the comment, by
And
the way, Greebach. Epic 4 tweets.
And I'm not gonna lie, the only reason he has 20 artificing was because he was level 79, and I was impatient.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about how I feel about Ascended Gear. To me, Ascended Gear fills a niche in Guild Wars 2 that maybe Legendaries should have, but didn't, where I can show you, if I have all Ascended Gear, I can show you that I have excelled well and consistently at every part of the game. To have that bound to more stats, I'm not entirely sure is okay. I would rather have it, because I did the math before the show. I thought it was actually less of a difference. It's about a 4% difference between Exotic Gear and Ascended Gear, which I would like to see. Actually, if I had my way in the world, I would reduce to no difference. If you had full pinks, you would be a dedicated player, but you wouldn't be at any more advantage than a casual player. And so think greens from Guild Wars versus golds from Guild Wars. Same stats. Greens had unique... Yeah, ish. Greens had unique obtainability, unique names. They were something you could show off, but they weren't as flexible as rares, where you could customize the stats on the rares. That's where I wanted to see Ascended Gear be, and I'm sad that it's not, and I'm sad that the Legendaries didn't fulfill that. But I like where it's going, where, like I said, you have to excel at every part of the game.
Oddly enough, I think World of Warcraft did Legendaries right, finally, with their latest Legendary. It's a back piece, it's a cloak, which, regardless of that, essentially the way you get this Legendary, the Legendary from WoW, which is kind of lame because it's going to be completely negated by the time you get it. You have to actually finish the entire expansion pack. At the end of the expansion pack, you get your Legendary. You don't have it. You have all the parts and you build it up, and every patch that they've released, you have a new part of the Ascended quest chain, and this part of this storyline, or not Ascended, but Legendary quest chain. And do that. If Guild Wars 2 had something like that, where you go and, like, at the end of your personal story, you're given this token, and it's like a pommel, or you pick like a weapon piece, and then throughout the living story, you've had to go out and gather things out in the open world. You have to go and maybe like build something out of various parts that you get from dungeons, and mix that from like all different parts of the game. Get some PvP stuff, some mist sigils in there, so you have to ask PvP. Get in there and grab some WW, because legendaries are supposed to mean that you have done everything in the game. That's the point of the legendary.
Do they really though? They really?
They don't right now. No, I'm saying this is what they should have.
No, do they have to show that you've done everything in the game, or could they just show that you excelled at a certain part of the game?
I think legendaries in their initial inception were meant to say you have done reasonably well at every part of the game, and I think that they should do that. Now, there could be another thing, like Ascended Gear could maybe, because you have like done X content with Ascended Gear, maybe have different Ascended Gear skins based on the content type, and therefore that shows that you have excelled at a specific piece of the game. But a legendary, for its nature, is going to be something that you have should spend months on, rather than paying $2,000 and buying it off the trading post.
Which is ultimately boils down to the problem with the reward system in general, I think, is that it all boils down to how much gold you have.
It does.
which is why I've been enjoying the way Ascended Gear has been rolling out, because if you have Ascended Gear, like I said, it shows that you've been participating and you've excelled in certain types of content.
Yes.
Because you can't just use gold to get ascended gear for the most part. You actually have to participate in content, which is probably the one thing I have enjoyed about ascended gear. It's not as particularly tied to the economy.
Eseth is suggesting specialty legendaries gained from PvP, WW, jumping puzzles, yada yada. I think that is the place that Ascended Gear should fill. Is that it should fill a specific game type. Like, you have mastered this game type, and that is where Ascended Gear comes in. Legendary takes it beyond and says, I have done everything. I am a master of this game. That is what it should be, I think. Which is why the scavenger hunt for the precursor should require you to essentially get this piece from completing the personal story. Yes, you have to finish the personal story. You have to be that dedicated, because you have now completed solo PvE, as more or less. Then you have to get stuff from dungeons, and then you have to get stuff from WW, and then you have to get stuff from... and you actually have to complete stuff in WW. You can't use your achievement stuff. That's silly. And then it shouldn't be about farming mats, buying mats off of the trading post. That's stupid. It should be about doing a bunch of content, proving competency across all content in Guild Wars 2, mix it together, legendary.
I agree up to the point of including World v World in SPVP.
Why not?
Because they're different game types, they've been treated as such, and they should be staying as such.
They would be. That's why you have Ascended Gear, though. That's what I'm saying, is Ascended Gear... doesn't that suggest that Ascended Gear basically fills the void between exotic and legendary? A legendary requires the entire game.
It's a time thing between Ascended and legendary.
But you don't need a
legendary is a prestige. Ascended is
but
just...
But we're talking about Ascended Gear as if it's not. So say...
I'm throwing away their current system, and I'm saying this is how I think it should be. I'm saying I think that Ascended Gear should... You should be able to get it from any game type, and it should be unique skinned for that game type, saying, I have mastered this game type. Yeah. And then legendaries go a step beyond that, or 3 steps, or several beyond that, saying, not only have I mastered a game type, I have mastered all game types. Maybe just take all of the ascended weapons.
Not necessarily mastered either, but participated in. Like, I am dedicated to this game. I have participated in every aspect of this game, and I am showing that off to you visually with a freaking cool sword.
I'm kind of up in the air for, like, participated, because I would prefer at least showing competency in all game types, so that it would limit who has legendaries even more. Like, I could probably almost never get a legendary, because I'm like, SPVP, who does that?
The thing is, there's a very, very strong split, whether people want to admit it or not, between PvE and PvP, and by extension between World v World and PvP, and what most people think of as PvE.
Oh yeah, no, we've seen that on our show.
Well, yeah, of course. And because of that, there would be a ton of... It basically boils down to a PR problem with legendaries. If you require people to do things that they don't enjoy, it's just going to be a problem. It's essentially the same problem I have with Ascended Gear right now.
But it's not required to get a legendary. That's the thing. It's an achievement.
It's not near as big
optionally go after
because it's cosmetic. I agree, but it's still a problem.
A legendary is supposed to be something that maybe like 0.05% of your community has, not every other guardian that I've ever seen running around with Twilight. It's supposed to be something that, like, if you get it, it is like, holy crap, where did you get that?
Just because, or how do I word this? Making it so people have to do things they don't enjoy isn't the right way to limit the availability of something, in my opinion.
Okay, I understand that, but that's why you have something else that's for those people. The legendary... What I'm saying is the legendary should be the pinnacle of all things Guild Wars 2. And most people should just accept that they can't have everything. If they required
That's not gonna
SPVP,
happen, though.
I would accept that I cannot have everything. Can you? How
Most
is that?
people won't accept that, which
Well,
is the
then,
problem that would exist. I'm playing devil's advocate
yeah,
here.
I know.
By
I'm
the way.
I'm saying that people need to grow up, put on their big boy pants, and say it's okay. I suck at things. I suck at SPVP.
That's
Which is
not
why
gonna happen because
I would
games.
say,
Go ahead.
as long as you participate in each realm, then there would be a way to get your legendary. Of course, if you master it, you're going to get it faster. But if you participate
Then
and
it
you
just becomes
dedicate
lucky.
and you try all the areas of the game, then
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess. I still think that it should be for the elite of the elite to say, bam, look at me, I have X. I mean, it's like when you saw someone running around in World of Warcraft with those two war glaives, you knew that they had mastered raiding. Because the only way to get it
Really?
was...
Really? I mean, I had war glaives at one point.
Okay,
you also
I'm sorry.
saw world first and server firsts.
Yes. Yeah, no, you were really good at raiding, Evie. Most people are like me in raiding, where it's like, we never actually saw the inside of Blackrock Lair until the next expansion pack where we went back. 90% of the community is like me, where we did Karazhan, and we just got to the Ogre before the next expansion hit.
But then, like, what about the new legendary? There's tons of people that are getting it now.
But
It's like,
it it requires
but it's still
you-
legendary.
It's still legendary. It requires you to take part in every single part of the game and show competency in it. You actually have to win in your PvP. You have to actually go out and show mastery of your class by getting stuff from raids. You have to show competency in single player by doing specific class-based challenges that are going to actually challenge you based on your role in the game as either a DPS or a DPS slash debuff or DPS slash off heal, that sort of thing. You have to go out and do all of these things. You have to show that you are competent in everything. And yes, a lot of people can get it because WoW is not...
Well, I actually didn't know that it required PvP,
It does. It does require PvP. It requires
which
you
I'm
to
actually
do
surprised
everything.
it does.
And though that's the point, is that like all these people who were getting the legendary cloak were like, I have to do PvP, and they only had to win three things. And it's like, it's a legendary. Of course you have to do everything in the game. It's a legendary.
Well, legendary, at least in
Legend.
WoW, have always been a thing of raiding.
Right. Well,
If you
and
want legendary, you had to raid.
right, and
That's
this
how you
is
got it.
it's just a massive quest chain.
And while I can appreciate having like multiple avenues to get the same thing, including all these avenues, forcing someone to do everything in order to get one thing is much different than having a way to get one thing multiple ways.
I don't know. I don't have any I honestly, in a skill-based game, I don't have a problem with items requiring me to show some level of skill to get them.
Oh, no, I have no problem with it, but it should show skill in a particular section of that game when that game is very specific.
Yeah.
I've solved this problem. Done. All right. I
Okay.
think that we are going to just circle around each other, growling like cats who have been dunked in a water bath and then thrown in the alleyway.
Have you done that to a cat? Because it's not what
No,
we're
I have
doing.
not. But Evie and I are circling each other.
I
Okay.
mean,
At this point,
my
which-
point is always just like Ascended Gear doesn't fill that role,
No, it
so I'm
doesn't.
just adding it a different perspective.
That's true. Yes. And so because it doesn't, there are issues. And I will agree with you that tying Ascended Gear just to crafting and account bounding it is stupid. Just
Why
straight
would
up.
you think it wouldn't be account bound? Every other piece of Ascended Gear is account bound.
Because it's crafted! It's like they don't understand what crafting is supposed to be
It's
in an
account
MMO.
bound.
How
It's
did...
crafted
In Guild
from
Wars 2,
account bound
crafting
materials.
is a self... what's the word I'm looking for?
Convenience.
Next
Convenient,
week
yes.
on Relics of the Black Desert.
Eric likes Sandbox and me and Evie don't.
I love Sandbox. I want so much more Sandbox. I want like an actual crafting economy in Guild Wars 2. And the economy in Guild Wars 2 is flipping things on the trading post. I hate flipping things. It's
Let me ask you something. Would you really feel this passionate about the economy if it wasn't so tied into the gameplay reward system?
yes, because I love the economy. I love just messing with that. In World of Warcraft, when money stopped meaning anything, really, like everyone could just go and get whatever they wanted whenever they needed it. Just run it like a daily or two, and you're fine as far as financially goes. I actually went into the economy PvP to experience it, and I learned about it, and I read journals and stuff, and I found crafting things that I could make that made me money, and I actually built. I mean, I got like 80,000 gold, which at the time you were getting much less. It was during early Kata, pre-first patch in Kata. I had 80,000 gold. I could buy whatever I wanted with gold. I had as much money as I wanted, and it was fun because I could go in, I could spend 15 minutes a day, figure out what I needed to purchase, like, it was more than 15 minutes because I had to actually figure out what the buy orders were stuff and make sure that I had all the crafting professions, and then actually go in with a plan and say, okay, I'm going to make this item because it's currently not selling, and I'm going to make this item because it's currently not selling. These items that I have on the market that are selling really well, that have dropped in price, I'm not going to sell them today because they're going to go back up in 3 weeks when people stop making them because they've dropped down.
Oh, okay. I know you're going off on a little bit of tangent, so I'm going to go ahead and stop you.
Yes.
Ultimately, why were you playing the economy? What was your end goal?
I wanted to break 100,000 gold, and I failed.
Okay. Your goal was to get money, playing the economy. That's
Yes.
a fitting goal. A lot of people,
Through
their goal
crafting.
has nothing to do with the money itself, but rather something that many, including myself, feel should be a reward for playing the game.
Yes, well, and see, that's the thing, and that's what I think that the economy in Guild Wars 2 should be. It should be that sort of ancillary thing where the people who enjoy not flipping and not buying out markets and taking them, but actually enjoy crafting, one that encourages crafters, and it doesn't. And I think that just because it's a international marketplace with every server all dumping into the same trash bin is why it can't be. I think you have to have a smaller economic base.
Well, it's not just that, it's the fact that money ties into pretty much every reward system in the game except Ascended Gear. And then Ascended Gear has the time gating.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the limited ways of getting Ascended Gear, which in and of itself is a problem because if you want Ascended back pieces, you have to do fractals.
No,
Why?
no,
No,
you can craft them
they
in the
exist.
Mystic
But you need
Forge.
something from fractals.
No.
For the second...
Oh, you need one vial, so you have to be able to do fractals 1 to 10,
okay.
maybe more than
You
one.
still need. You want to know something? I didn't get my first vial until February.
Do you need the vials for the ones that for the... Because I know you can convert the flower back piece and the tentacle back piece to Ascended. Do you need the vials for that?
You can only do the tentacle back piece. The flower is not convertible, and I don't know off the top of my head whether
And
you
that's not
did-
available anymore. So
Yeah.
Okay. How about the red flower and the backpack with the toucan?
those are skins.
Okay. There we go. Alright, so I think that we have come to the conclusion that account-bound crafted Ascended gear is stupid. Yes? Can we all agree on that?
Yes.
Alright.
Wait, no. I disagree. Anyway, continue.
Really? Wait, you disagree?
what?
I don't mind crafting account bound gear.
As long as there are other ways to get it.
Yeah, I guess. You know, actually, there's a point. There are at least 2 ways to get every single ascended piece right now. Did you guys know that?
Except for weapons.
Except
But
for
yes,
weapons. But they're just
there's-
being implemented, and every ascended piece has been added a month
back-
later to another content type.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Oh, that's true. They do generally. So crossed fingers that we'll see maybe weapons dropping in level 60 fractals or something.
Level
Nope.
60 fractals don't exist.
Nope.
And they
Nope.
will now.
Nope. Nope, we're done. We're done for
All
the
right,
night.
so finishing off before poor Kate has a mental break. Community Corner. Relics of War, we are revealing a secret project that we've been working on tomorrow. It has been semi-revealed by other websites, so if you watch other podcasts, you guys will already know. Don't tell anyone. Shh. It's a secret. Also, PAX this weekend. I am going to try and get Triv and Israfel to go there and talk to Relics of War. Talk to ArenaNet. Crossed fingers that they'll be able to make it. ArenaNet will be taking over a hotel and revealing a big secret. I think that it's an expansion. Evie thinks that it is a.
They said it's not an expansion.
I think it's an expansion. Okay.
I am afraid. Okay, I am terrified. They said it's not an expansion. I am terrified that their announcement is going to be, we are not having expansions.
That would be hilarious. Evie, what do you think it is?
I think it's either the Crystal Desert, the Ring of Fire, the Maguma Wastes, the Northern Shiver Peaks, the Underground, or the Isle of Janthier.
Okay, so you think it's an expansion too. He just doesn't want to say it.
No, it's not an expansion. It's a new area introduced through Living Story, which is technically an expansion, but it's not in a box.
All right, I'll give you that. All right, Dragon Season's first anniversary was a blast. That was a fun party. So anyone who came, thank you very much. They'd like to extend their thanks to everyone who came. Very awesome party. I hung out for a little while editing video, recording. I don't even know what I was doing at that point. My weekend has turned into a haze. Also, Pink Day in LA is coming up. So there is you can check that out. Just search Pink Day LA, Guild Wars 2. And there will be more information. It is for breast cancer awareness. It will be this October. It will be hosted by Dragon Season and Guild Wars 2 Guru. Guild Wars 2 Guru will take care of the North American servers. Dragon Season will be taking care of the European servers. Several other people should be helping out. And let's see, what else? How can you get involved? Contact Dragon Season or Guild Wars 2 Guru, and they should have actual places on their forum where you can actually volunteer. So definitely do that if you have a chance. And that is going to be it for tonight. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you Evie and Kate for being on the show, even though we are now going to go exchange fisticuffs in a room off camera. We're actually not in the same house. That would be weird. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Have a good one. See you.